I'm Tom, and I've got quite a story to tell from my time in the St. Louis area. It all started when I was 21 and had just gone through a tough breakup with my first serious girlfriend. I was completely devastated, which led me down a path of deep depression and heavy misuse of painkillers and Xanax. In my quest to find someone to rebound with, I found an ad on Craigslist from a woman named Stephanie. We started chatting, and before I knew it, we had arranged for her to pick me up one night, which led to us getting involved. Stephanie was an older woman, around 35, and despite some differences, she had her own place and resources that supported my substance use. I found myself relying on her for financial support. As time went on, Stephanie became very attached to me and even started dropping hints about marriage, claiming it was to help me with insurance for my substance-related issues. I wasn't too keen on that idea. One day we had a huge argument, and things escalated to the point where she got a temporary restraining order against me. However, just a week later she called me in tears, apologizing and expressing her love for me. I accepted her offer to pick me up, buy some substances, and grab a meal, as my addiction was still a major struggle. From the moment she picked me up, I sensed something was off. Stephanie, who was typically very talkative, was strangely quiet that night. When we got back to her apartment and went inside, she pushed me onto the couch and initiated intimate contact. Later, she became upset when I didn't comply with her wishes. Sensing something was amiss, I asked her to take me home, and she agreed. After I arrived home and spent about 10 minutes watching TV with my sister, I received a call from the St. Louis County Police Department asking me to come outside for a conversation. To my surprise, several officers with tasers and guns were waiting for me. I was handcuffed and questioned about my actions. They informed me that Stephanie had accused me of mishandling and harming her, which led to my detention and a search of my home. Thankfully, I remembered that we had made stops at a gas station together, which contradicted her kidnapping claims. Nonetheless, the police collected evidence, and I ended up spending the night in the St. Louis County Jail in hospital scrubs. The next morning I was released, but my problems were far from over. Stephanie continued to harass me, making late-night calls from blocked numbers or stalking me in her vehicle. I reported these incidents to the police, but they advised me to obtain a restraining order. Given my previous legal issues, I chose to ignore her and hoped the problem would resolve itself. To this day, I still receive unexpected calls from blocked numbers, and she reaches out to my new partners on social media with unfounded accusations. So the moral of the story is clear. Exercise caution when meeting people online, no matter their gender. One unpredictable person can create substantial challenges in your life. Stay safe out there, folks. A few weeks ago, I had to fly out to a small town I'd never been to in order to look for a place to live. I'm moving there in the fall to start grad school. My boyfriend flew with me, and before the trip I researched all sorts of apartments on Craigslist and set up a bunch of appointments. Our first appointment was in the afternoon in this sort of remote residential area. The landlord sounded fine over email and asked me to call him an hour before the appointment to confirm that I was coming. I called. He didn't answer, so my boyfriend and I started walking to the house and just hoped that he would show up. Maybe 10 minutes before the appointment, he called me. "Are you coming?" he asked. He sounded like an older man and had this very strange, slow way of talking, but I just thought that he was older. "Yes, we're in front of the house now." He got extremely upset. "We? Oh yes, my boyfriend's with me." "You never told me you had a boyfriend. You never said that." It had never crossed my mind to have to tell him this information, since my boyfriend would not be coming to live with me. He was just helping me look for apartments on the trip. I told the man so, and after a very long pause, he said, "I'm sorry. It's just, sometimes people don't tell me when they're married, and it surprises me. I'll see you soon." Then he hung up. I told my boyfriend about what the man had said, and he was immediately weirded out. He wanted to leave, but there were slim pickings in terms of real estate at this point, so I, stupidly, said that we had to stay in case this place was the place. As we're discussing it, we see a man leave the house we're going to view. This man was young and extremely sketchy looking, greasy hair, furtive eyes. He took one look at us and ran out of the house to his car and pulled away from the curb with a screech. Okay, so now we're really weirded out. But this isn't enough for us to bail just yet. And as we look at each other wondering what to do, the landlord arrives. He's in his 50s, very tall and very strong looking. His eyes are completely blank and empty of warmth or emotion. He slowly walks up to us and says, "I'd shake your hands, but mine are dirty." "What from?" my boyfriend asks. "Work," is the flat reply. He asks us a lot of questions about me, completely ignoring my boyfriend. The entire time he stares into my eyes without blinking. What am I going to school for? What other places am I considering for living? Is my boyfriend moving to this town too? I try to give answers that are as vague as possible. Meanwhile, my boyfriend asks the landlord questions of the same kind, which he refuses to answer. Then he says, apropos of nothing, "Let me show you the basement." At this point, I should have noped out of there, but I didn't. I kept thinking this was an eccentric old man from a small town. We're city folk, and that we were just feeling paranoid. My boyfriend, on the other hand, wanted out of there, but he followed us as the man led us to the back of the house, away from the street, to this sort of detached shed. He opened the door and we saw that there were stairs leading down into utter darkness. He flipped the switch at the top of the stairs and the light didn't come on. Normally the response for this is, "Oh shit, the light's out," or something like that. But he just said, and slowly walked down into the darkness. Then he stood there without moving, in the dark, and said, "Aren't you coming down?" "There's nothing to see if the light's out," says my boyfriend. The landlord just stands there for a long time, then slowly walks up the stairs and closes the basement door without saying anything. He took us into the house. Weird and increasingly creepy things ensued. The front door, the only exit to the house, locked automatically. And when my boyfriend tried to fiddle with it, the man got really upset and told him to leave it alone. He managed to get it open secretly, though. The man kept trying to box us into small rooms and, according to my boyfriend, kept reaching his hands into his pockets, only to take them away when he caught us looking. On Craigslist and in person, the man claimed that there was a grad student already living in the house, but the evidence of that seemed arranged. There were neat piles of generic textbooks on the table, but not other things a 20-something might read. There was a bowl of fruit on the table, but no other food in the fridge or pantry, or utensils. There were maybe 3 t-shirts in the closet. This supposed grad student wasn't out of town, but the landlord couldn't say what school he went to or how long he'd been renting the house. Finally, the man had showed us every single room in the house but one. This one he refused to open, claiming it was just the attic, and we didn't need to see anything up there. He gave us several reasons when we inquired. It was unfinished, there was furniture up there. It would smell bad. This last one I believed, because standing near the door, it smelled terrible. Finally, we made our excuses and bolted out of there. The man walked us out, pretended to go to his car to leave, and when he thought we had turned the corner, slowly sauntered back into the house. My boyfriend, fixated on the idea that there was something wrong with this guy, Googled the man that night. We found out 3 things. That he was a pillar of the community, known by a lot of the townspeople. That there was no evidence of him owning or managing a real estate company, as he claimed on Craigslist. And that he had listed his home address as the very house we had been touring, the house where the grad student lived. So that was the creepiest thing that ever happened to me. Hello everyone! If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful or entertaining, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Your support motivates us to create more content you'll love. Thanks a million. And if you've just subscribed, please drop a comment saying I subscribed. We'd love to welcome you to our community.